Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome to my YouTube channel. I am so happy to have you here. If you enjoy this video, please hit that like and subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. Here are some petty revenge stories to get your day going. Let me put my glasses on here. I can read better now. Coworker from hell tried to get me to give him a ride, so I blew out of the parking lot without him. I had a coworker who is one of the worst human beings I've ever met in real life. He was very misogynistic, calling all the women that worked their girl, demanding they do things for him while he did F all. Constantly flirting with them regardless if they were single or showed any interest, and would scream profanities in their face if they didn't fall in line. Management dragged their feet doing anything, despite the constant issues and the fact they were aware the quality of his work was terrible. I'm not a woman, but many of my friends there were women, and when I see him yell, "Hey girl, go get this now," then pitch a fit like a toddler when they refused, it really peed me off. I told people I worked with to tell him if they hit on them and wouldn't leave them alone, because I can't stand that crap. I heard that he had no transportation and was pressuring people to take him home. One night he told me he needed a ride home. It was midnight. Me, him, and the manager were the only people left at the end of the night. I told him I couldn't. He wouldn't listen. He followed me to my car anyway. I got in, locked the doors, and he started banging on my window like a psychopath, telling me I'd better effing take him home. Keep in mind, it was pitch black out in an empty parking lot with no security at midnight. He could have attacked me or jumped in and stole my car, and my odds of stopping him would have been slim. I put the car in reverse, backed out, and blew out of that lot. The manager left ahead of me, so he was left in that lot all alone. There is zero public transport and probably no Uber or Lyft either. The town I drive to for work is completely car dependent and so anti-public transport. Sidewalks don't even exist. I didn't feel bad about it either. Your transportation is your problem. He's not a minor. He's 27 years old. He's a big boy who can figure out his business. You can believe he didn't ask me for a ride again or F with me. The aftermath. This happened months ago. Want to know how it ends? Turns out he was indeed a crazy person. A viral video of him came out showing him getting out of a car. A co-worker who felt bad gave him a ride, in a fit of road rage, and getting into a fist fight with another driver right in the middle of a busy highway with hundreds of cars swerving, trying not to hit him. It was clearly identifiable, and people in the comments were using his legal name. Apparently that still wasn't enough to fire him. Really? He rather anticlimactically finally ran his mouth at the female general manager, and she told him to get the F out of my business and fired him on the spot. Believe me, that night I had some shots in celebration. I bet you did. That is karma. And karma was definitely coming for him. And sometimes you just need to sit back and wait for karma to do its thing, because it always does. It might not do it like straight away, but it does it eventually. That is great. My mum's petty sometimes, and I'm here for it. This was back in 2005. My mum and I had moved into a new apartment. I was at school when this happened. Our home ran out of cooking gas, and mum ordered a cylinder on phone. I've got to order gas for my house. Thank you so much for reminding me. I'm going to do that in a minute, as soon as I finish this video. Usually they used to take a few days to deliver the cylinder back then. We had 2 cylinders, so we had cooking gas. For some reason, the delivery guy came the next morning itself, and mum did not have enough money and had to withdraw from ATM. She was short by 23 rupees. 1 USD was around 40 rupees back then. So she asked the neighbor to lend some money, promising that she will return in 2 days. The next morning she ran into him as she was heading out and he asked her for the money. She said she will give by evening. He immediately got rude and said, "No, I want it now itself." So my mum went home and got 23 rupees worth of coins, 25 paise and 50 paise coins included. Paise to rupee is what cent is to dollar. Apparently the expression on his face was priceless. It's not much of a revenge, but petty for sure. A not so confidential survey. So I spent way too long at a company, ran my own department that due to improvements in technology saw the people I oversaw dwindle from about 10 to 1. It was a fun time, ups and downs, as there often were with any company, and I settled into my role rather contentedly. I had 2 tiers of management, those directly above me and those who oversaw the department from the head office. Now, the company never really understood our department. We were the poor relation and yet exceptionally profitable. As the years passed, our head office oversight vanished. No warning, no communication, just vanished. I even rang head office to ask when the next visit would be, and they actually claimed they had no idea who I was talking about. Those people had just been removed and sent on their merry way, informing us at the far end of the company was not seen as necessary. So onwards the years rolled, now only with direct management. Now, direct management didn't understand us either. There wasn't much to understand. We created a product, we sold that product, but it was technical and pre-digital, so it was too complicated for them to bother understanding. After we got digitized, it was now just too computery for them to bother understanding. No bother, we kept to ourselves, adhered to all standard operating procedures, and continued on our merry way. Managers came and managers went, and despite promises from head office, we could see that the writing was on the wall. The manager at the time was a rather toxic individual, empowered by a very toxic general manager over her. They had clearly been informed that our department as it stood was being wound up, yet they couldn't tell us for various reasons. So they clearly saw no value in us doing our work, even though it was the whole reason we were being employed. The direct manager would often storm into our department and demand to know why we were in there when we could clearly be doing something else. Snide comments galore and just a general unpleasantness began to pervade our department. There was clearly something going on. We'd lost any contact with the engineers who used to fix our machines, and again, we weren't being kept in the loop. So I started documenting every toxic interaction. There was no point complaining officially. They would protect themselves. Thankfully, there were plenty of these interactions. She was also very proud of discussing how bad her colleagues were, as if she was glue that held everything together. Every comment, every argument, every encounter in which she demeaned myself or my colleague. And then came the yearly confidential survey. I inputted everything, pages of every interaction, every insult she had levied against her fellow managers, every last detail of her behavior, and then I sent that info off into the digital cosmos and forgot about it. Our department got wound up and the room had spent many a year it was converted into storage, and we got moved elsewhere. The general manager was asked to leave alongside a few other higher ups for irregularities that were never disclosed, and we ended up with a new general manager who was very nice and a new regional manager also. The toxic manager and her colleagues remained in their positions. New managers, and you know what? That survey all those months ago, hey, the regional and general managers decided to get all the managers together and read the survey's comments out. They aren't confidential, folks. And all is going well until the new general manager gets to mine and says that this page of comments should be put to one side for later. And it would have been had the toxic manager kept her mouth shut. Now, she believed in any excuse to run down her fellow managers and demanded that the bad comments were read out as well as the good. It was only right, after all. She believed that the bad comments could only be written about a fellow manager. Never in a million years could they ever be about her. And so they got read out in front of every manager and the new regional manager. Every insult, every instance of toxic behavior, every act that should have been dealt with by HR in an ideal world. But we all know HR is not there to protect staff, only the company. That seems to be the case with every company, hey? Months of toxic interactions all condensed into one confidential survey filing. She had to apologize to every manager, myself, and my colleague, and never got a single apology. Though she didn't speak to me for months after she was humiliated in front of both the new manager and the new regional manager. I did get a lot of smirks from the other managers though, but not once was I asked about my comments. I figure the fallout had been rather explosive, and it took a great while for her to repair any standing she had. I later volunteered to work through COVID, and as it turned out, my time with the company was slowly coming to an end. Oh yes, voluntary redundancy was offered, and I took it for one reason and one reason only. Well, two if you count the payout. I heard from my colleague that said toxic manager was going about telling everyone that I would never leave, so I left. I suppose this is more accidental petty revenge in that a series of events aligned to make it happen, but I figured I'd share. Apologies for the boring story. I don't think it was that boring, actually. I also worked at a place where people thought that I was never going to leave, and guess what? I did. I ended up leaving and went on to better things, and here I am. Quite a few years after that, but here I am. People thought that I was always going to be stuck at this job, and I just one day just had enough, and I just went, you know what, I'm done, see you later. And now, you know, once I start to get to that point, I don't push myself to get over it thinking that it's going to get better and just spiraling into being stressed and depressed and anxious about going to work. If I get to that point, it's time to leave and do something for yourself. And here I am. Here I am doing this for you guys. I farted on my stupid coworker. That's a headline I never expected to ever say on YouTube, but here we are. Let's see what happened. This happened a while ago, but I figured I'd share. I used to work as a hostess at a massive 3-floor restaurant/bar. One bartender, Mac, had the tendency to do what I like to call max-planing. He would always go on about how the highest paying tables should always be seated in his section. Before my shift, he'd always give me the same lame speech about how his section of the restaurant was the most prime seating with the best service. So of course, I should only be seating people who look like they're going to be spending a lot of money there, whatever that means. Like, honestly, what does that mean? Because I could walk into a restaurant or somewhere and I could be dressed down in like a t-shirt and shorts and my Birks and no makeup on my face, looking like a homeless person, and I could drop easily $100 on a bill, or I could drop so much money on a bill, but you're just going to seat me in a poor person section of your restaurant because you think that I'm not going to drop money. Now, let me be clear. If you are a hostess or a waitress or a server and I walk into your place of business and you're dealing with somebody like this, and I walk in and I look like I am a feral person because I'm dressed down, please let me know that somebody in your place of business has this level of thinking, because I will drop so much money on a bill. I will buy food that I will just not even eat and take it home, whatever, just to prove a point. because I am petty and I will do that. So please, if this is happening to you and you see me, give me a heads up because I will spend money. Typically, I'd just be like, sure, whatever, Mac, and then see people without profiling them, because obviously this place was also always jam-packed with massive lines. So it's not like there was much room for me to shuffle people around based on how much they looked like they might ball out. Also, how the hell am I supposed to gauge who is going to ball out? Exactly. You don't know. You could have people coming in a suit that look like they have money, and they're usually the cheapest. So profiling someone based on how they look is gonna do you no good. So, you know, if you see somebody in a suit, you know they're probably, or in Louboutins and dressed, you know, to the nines and look like they're rich and have money, they're not balling out. They're not paying much for a meal because they like to keep their money for those luxury items. See a homeless looking person, a feral looking person like myself walk in, I probably am going to spend money on food because I don't care about the luxury items, you know? So, so you can't profile people. It's silly. Silly. Mac is silly. Anyways, Mac took this personally apparently. One time I sat a group of older women celebrating a birthday in his section and they ended up ordering some food with no drinks and then left. Mac went on this massive tirade about how I was incompetent at my job and how I should clearly have known those women weren't going to spend much money and should clearly have sat them in another service section that wasn't Mac's. Here's an idea, Mac. You become a host and then you can seat them wherever you want. One shift, I felt a particularly heinous fart brewing and got a sinister idea. For context, I'm not a regular farter. A lifetime of terribly disordered eating habits has rendered my gut to be a few strokes shy of chemical weapon, and I've instigated several heated arguments on fart policies amongst my friends, all with the power of a single fart. So there Mac is behind the bar washing glasses fast as hell during a rush, and I thought, wow, how helpful would I be if I go put them away behind the bar for him while he makes orders for customers. So of course I go out of my way to go behind the bar to help Mac, and right as he's behind me shaking cocktails, I let it rip. Some of my finest work, I must add. I peeked over to Mac to see if he'd been caught in the radius, and sure enough, there he was with his face twisted in sheer disgust. To make matters worse, there were two pretty girls seated across from him at the bar, seemingly clear of the nuke zone. As I was fleeing the scene, I caught Mac trying unsuccessfully to keep his cool in the midst of the stench while attempting to chat up these girls. Lol. The satisfaction of that moment led me to get a little carried away, and I started systematically targeting Mac whenever I needed to fart on shift. One time I even made myself a protein-packed green smoothie to up my impact after a shift where he'd been particularly menacing. When I saw Mac frantically talking to a manager, pointing at the open drain under the bar and checking the fridges for milk spills, I knew I'd gone too far. Anyway, Mac, wish you the best. You thought you were a smart fella, but you're really a fart smeller. Lol. Oh my god, that is so good. That is so good. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for sharing that one, OP. That was great. Anyway, I think that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit that like and subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.